The gavel came down hard, guilty of assault. The defendant hadn't even tried to defend himself, just sat silently as witness after witness painted him as an unstable drifter who'd attacked an innocent man outside a bar. Security moved to escort him away when the courtroom doors burst open. Every head turned as a figure in dress blues strode down the aisle, medals gleaming, 3 stars catching the fluorescent light. He stopped at the defendant's table and said 4 words that silenced the room. That man saved lives. Welcome to Hidden Heroes. Before we continue this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today. And if you think stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. We're growing every day, and I sincerely thank you for being a part of it. Marcus Stone's day hadn't started at that small bar on the edge of town. Nothing had been planned, really. He'd just hoped to have his drink and sit quietly in his corner, avoiding anyone's attention. At 45, his graying hair showed remnants of a military buzz cut, but nobody paid attention to that detail. To them, he was just another old soldier, forgotten by the system, cast out onto the streets, living on society's margins. Marcus's problems hadn't begun that night. They'd actually started 15 years earlier in the engine room of the USS Intrepid in the Gulf of Aqaba. That night, their ship's sinking had been a matter of minutes, and Marcus Stone, then Petty Officer Second Class, had been forced to make a choice: his own safety or the lives of 4,000 crew members. He'd made his choice. He'd neutralized the bombs, saved the ship, but the process had changed him. Shrapnel had entered his body, his hand-eye coordination had been damaged, and a slight tremor had developed, especially in his left hand. But that story had never made the newspapers. It had remained classified. Because what the USS Intrepid was doing in that region, who had attacked them, and exactly what Marcus had neutralized was a national security secret. Marcus had done his job, received his medal, which he'd never told anyone about, and quietly returned to civilian life. Civilian life hadn't been easy. He'd been diagnosed with PTSD, but the waiting lists at VA hospitals were too long. Jobs came and went. Sometimes he worked construction, sometimes as a security guard. He'd been unemployed for the last 2 years, living in a small apartment. The money from social assistance barely covered the rent. That evening, Marcus sat at his corner table in the bar, sipping his drink when 3 men entered. Their voices were loud, their gestures aggressive. The one who seemed to be their leader was someone named Blake Morrison, the town's former football star, now a small-time real estate scammer. Morrison and his friends began walking around the bar, harassing other customers. "Hey, look over there," Morrison pointed at Marcus. "Another old soldier trash. Why are these guys still hanging around here? The war's over. Time to go home." Marcus didn't lift his head, focused on his drink. He'd been hearing these kinds of comments for years. He usually ignored them, but Morrison didn't stop. "Hey, I'm talking to you, soldier boy. You're not welcome here." Marcus finally lifted his head. "I'm not bothering anyone, just finishing my drink and leaving." "Oh, it can talk," Morrison grinned. "What if we don't want you here?" The bar's other customers tensed. The bartender tried to intervene, but Morrison silenced him too. The situation was escalating rapidly, and Marcus could feel it. His old soldier instincts began to kick in. He identified exit routes, assessed potential threats, noted objects that could be used as weapons. "Listen," Marcus spoke in a calm voice. "I don't want to fight. I'll finish my drink and leave." "But what if I want to fight?" Morrison approached the table. "What if I'm tired of having parasites like you in this town?" Marcus stood up. He was shorter than Morrison and much thinner, but there was no fear in his posture. "Last warning, get out of my way." Morrison laughed and shoved Marcus. This was a big mistake. Marcus's reflexes were still sharp 15 years later. He waited for Morrison's second push, caught it, and countered. The movement was so fast and effective that Morrison found himself on the ground, with Marcus's knee pressing against his neck. His 2 friends tried to intervene, but Marcus neutralized them too. All 3 men were on the ground, gasping for breath, while Marcus hadn't broken a single sweat. "I'm leaving," Marcus said calmly. "Nobody follow me." But Morrison, while lying on the ground, had already pulled out his phone and called 911. "Police! We've been attacked! A crazy man attacked us!" The police arrived 5 minutes later. Marcus hadn't left the bar yet. He was talking to the shocked bartender, trying to explain the situation. When the officers entered, what they saw was this: 3 injured civilians on the ground and a man without a scratch on him. "Hands up!" The police officer drew his weapon. Marcus complied. Years of training had taught him not to clash with police. When the handcuffs tightened around his wrists, he didn't say a word. "This man attacked all of us," Morrison yelled while still lying on the ground. "For no reason. He's lost it." The bartender tried to intervene. "No, wait." Morrison started it. "Shut up!" Morrison yelled at the bartender. "This man is dangerous. He has military training." The police officer looked at Marcus. Old worn clothes, gray hair, tired eyes. The profile of a typical street vagrant. Morrison, on the other hand, was a known businessman. His family had roots in the town. "You're under arrest," the officer told Marcus, "for assault." The court process had moved quickly. Morrison and his friends stuck to their story. Marcus had attacked for no reason. His mental health wasn't sound. He was dangerous to society. Nobody testified for Marcus except the bartender, and the bartender's word wasn't enough against 3 respectable citizens. The public defender assigned to Marcus was young and inexperienced. He hadn't done much research on the case and hadn't examined Marcus's military background at all. To him, this was a standard bar fight case, and his client was a typical problematic veteran. When the trial day came, the courtroom was almost completely empty. Just a few curious onlookers, a reporter from the local newspaper, and an elderly man sitting in the back. Nobody knew that this elderly man was retired Admiral William Harrison. The admiral had stopped by the courthouse that day because he had other business in town. He was returning from an old friend's funeral. The trial had proceeded as expected. Morrison and his friends had given convincing testimonies, describing Marcus as crazy and uncontrolled. The bartender had tried to defend Marcus, but his words had been carefully ignored. Marcus said nothing. He didn't defend himself, didn't talk about his past, didn't mention his service records. He just sat quietly and watched injustice unfold around him. The prosecutor had been effective in his closing statement. "Jury members, you see before you an individual who cannot adapt to society, prone to violence, uncontrolled. Marcus Stone may have once served our country, but now he is dangerous and unpredictable. We must remove him from society." The jury retired for deliberation and returned 15 minutes later. The decision was clear: guilty. As the judge was announcing the sentence, Marcus stood with his hands behind his back, military posture. 2 years in prison. As security guards approached to take him away, the courtroom doors opened. When Admiral Harrison entered, the entire room stopped. His 3-star uniform, the medals on his chest, the aura of authority that 30 years of service provided. He walked down the aisle with large strides, his eyes fixed on Marcus. "Stop!" His voice filled the room. "This man is innocent." The judge looked in bewilderment. "Excuse me, who are you?" "Admiral William Harrison, United States Navy. And this man," he pointed to Marcus, "saved the lives of 4,000 sailors 15 years ago." The room fell completely silent. The self-satisfied expression on Morrison's face disappeared. Jury members looked at each other. "Admiral," the judge spoke hesitantly, "why wasn't this information shared before?" "Because this operation was classified," Admiral Harrison replied. "But I cannot watch the injustice done to this man." He turned to Marcus. "Petty Officer Stone, stand up." Marcus automatically stood up, assumed military posture. August 5, 2008, USS Intrepid. Enemy divers had placed magnetic mines on the ship's hull. While all crew were being evacuated, Petty Officer Stone volunteered to stay and neutralize the mines. He prevented the ship from sinking and saved the lives of 4,000 military personnel. The admiral paused, looking at everyone in the room. He was severely wounded during this operation. Shrapnel was embedded in his body. He suffered permanent nerve damage in his left hand. He was honored with the Medal of Valor, but due to operational secrecy, it was never made public. Marcus still hadn't said anything, but there was now a different light in his eyes. After 15 years, finally someone was telling the truth. "Admiral," the judge spoke slowly, "can you verify this information?" Harrison pulled out his cell phone. "I'm calling the Pentagon. All documents will be faxed here within 3 minutes." While waiting, the room was completely silent. Morrison and his friends were exchanging worried glances. The prosecutor was shuffling his papers, not knowing what to do. When the documents arrived, the judge examined them carefully. Marcus's service record, medal ceremony photos, operation report, censored version. Everything confirmed what the Admiral had said. The court, the judge finally spoke. In light of this new evidence, it is clear that serious misinformation has been given about Mr. Stone's character. He turned to Morrison. Mr. Morrison, do you have anything to say about this injustice? Morrison's face had paled. I didn't know. You didn't need to know, Marcus finally spoke. His voice was calm but clear. I didn't attack you. You attacked me, and I defended myself. It's that simple. Admiral Harrison stepped forward. Your Honor, I would like to note that this man has been struggling with PTSD for 15 years, unable to get adequate help due to VA system inadequacies. He is a hero, not a criminal. The judge took a deep breath. The verdict given in this case is overturned in light of new evidence. Mr. Stone, you are free, and personally, I thank you for your service. The room began to applaud, standing up. Marcus was still in shock. For the first time in 15 years, someone had truly believed him. The Admiral approached him. Petty Officer Stone, could you come with me? Outside the courthouse, the Admiral turned to Marcus. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you talk about your past? Marcus shrugged. Who would have believed it? I learned long ago, people only see what they want to see. But I saw you, the Admiral said. I never forgot that night 15 years ago. After you left the ship, I looked for you, but they said you were on the missing list. I was transferred to another unit, Marcus explained. Then I was discharged. The Admiral pulled out his cell phone. This afternoon, you'll meet with the VA hospital director. Your PTSD treatment will restart, and this time you'll be on the priority list. Also, if you want, you can work as a military consultant. Marcus was surprised. Why are you doing this? Because 15 years ago you saved my life, the Admiral smiled. And today, I saved yours. That's how military brotherhood works. 6 months later, Marcus Stone had become a new man. The treatment he received from the VA had worked. He was successful in his new job, and most importantly, he had regained his self-respect. A case had been filed against Morrison and his friends for perjury, but what Marcus valued most was the photograph Admiral Harrison had given him. The crew of the USS Intrepid, 4,000 saved sailors. On the back of the photo it read, "Heroism is silent, but never forgotten." Sometimes truth emerges at the moment it needs to be told, and sometimes creating that moment just requires having the right person to bear witness. This story was brought to you by Hidden Heroes. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever known someone who never asked for recognition, but deserved more than anyone else? Tell us in the comments what they meant to you and how you remember them. And if you think stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. We'll see you in the next one.